The dream remains alive for 16 men's and 29 women's teams. We will reveal the brackets for the NCAA lacrosse national championship coming up here in the next hour. These are some of the teams that are watching, hoping that their names will be called over the next hour to keep their dreams of hoisting that trophy you just saw high in the sky. Men's teams, women's teams, we're going to have the entire gambit covered here over the next hour. Syracuse, Drexel, Stony Brook, Duke. You saw Army, you saw Rutgers before. Spread out all over the country. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Cotter alongside Quint Kesnick and Paul Carcaterra. Welcome to the men's and women's bracketology show in college lacrosse. And Quint, when you think about this season, we saw the COVID at the start. It's been a very tough season for everybody, but here we are. We've got a national championship right in front of us. We're still playing lacrosse. An unusual, a very different year, and the selection process is a little different as well. The committee telling us that they're going to rely on the RAC. That's the Regional Advisory Committee made of 10 coaches from all the different conferences. Obviously, the RPI is dysfunctional this year. There's going to be a lot more subjectivity, a lot more eye test. What do you think, Kark, as we get ready for this tournament?
I look at the tees, and props to all the players, the parents, the coaches, the administrative staffs, and the medical staffs to make this dream a reality, right? Because I remember a year ago sitting in my house at this time of the year, and it was miserable. And I missed lacrosse dearly. And I said to myself, and I talked to some of you, if 2021, okay, with all the players coming back and all the star power that would be on the field in the men's and the women's game, if it's what we think it could be, it was going to be amazing. And for the men's and the women's, this season, I thought was just fantastic.
Let's show you how the men's bracket is going to be put together. It's going to be slightly different than in previous years. 16-team field, 8 automatic qualifiers, 8 at-large team. Remember, Virginia's the defending champs from back in 2019. Top 8 teams are going to be seeded, and we're going to go through the 4 locations where the first-round games are going to be played here in a little bit. Quarterfinals then will be in 2 locations, and then championship weekend in East Hartford coming up Memorial Day weekend. Thank you, Jay Sheehan, and we're going to give you our 8 seeded teams in the bracket. Let's start with the top half, and man, the Heels are living right, aren't they? Not only are they field hockey national champs, not only are they #1 seed in the women's bracket, they're #1 seed in the men's bracket as well. North Carolina Q getting that 1.
Tell you, this team's offense is just wickedly strong with Chris Gray and a cast of characters, the depth of scoring. Tanner Cook, Justin Anderson, William Perry. They play fast. They're fun to watch, and they can fill it up.
A little bit of a mystery here solved, Kark. Lehigh, the #8 seed.
Yeah. Kevin Cassis and the Mountain Hawks. First trip to the dance since 2013. If you win like 55% of your face-offs, you're good. Michael Sisselberger, 80%. And they have James Spence in the cage. He's fantastic.
Another little bit of a surprise here with the #5 seed Q, Georgetown, Big East champs.
The Swamp Dogs, it's all about defense for Coach Kevin Warren, Gibby Smith, Alex Mazzone, and goalie Owen McElroy. Woo, you talk about putting like saran wrap on the goal, nothing gets in.
#4 seed, the defending champs, Kark.
Yeah, the last champs, and they have a cast of characters. Their top 6 might be the best individual offensive top 6 in the country, and they have 2 quarterbacks with Connor Schellenberger and Matt Moore.
4 seeded teams in the top half of the bracket. Let's move down to the bottom half. #3 seed Maryland, Q. That's a little bit of a surprise, too.
It is. Big Ten champs dominated the action in that league. Jared Bernhardt, a Tewaaraton candidate. John Tillman and the Terps have been a mainstay the last decade.
Q, it's not the seeded teams that are surprised. It's where some of them are seeded, like Notre Dame at 6.
Very interesting, considering that their 3 losses are really by slim margins, all in the ACC. They have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Balance all across the board. Their non-conference schedule a little weak.
Kark, the Pios come in at #7.
He's talking about offense. The Pios have offense. Ethan Walker is the school's all-time leading point scorer. And then you have Jackson Morrill, who parachutes in from Yale in the offseason, and he won a national title at Yale. He's got the experience. He's been really, really strong in terms of just facilitating the offense.
Men's team and women's team in Denver enjoying the show and getting ready to celebrate the men's team right now. They already know that they are in with the #7 seed. They await their opponent. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. #2 seed, also no surprise here, Kark. It's Duke.
When you win a national championship, you do it with senior leadership. they bookend the senior leadership. Fifth-year guys, Michael Sowers, behind at X, running the show. And then on the other end, they have an eraser in JT Giles Harris, who's a legit Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
All right, you see the 8-seeded teams in the men's bracket. We'll get to the other 8 teams here in a little bit. But first, when you look at that, what really jumps out at you, Cart?
Notre Dame at 6. Really surprised, because I think from a balance perspective, you could argue this could be the best team in the country. They're at 6. Maryland's undefeated. They win the Big Ten. They're a 3. If you look at these two teams, they could match up in the quarterfinals. So to me, Notre Dame at 6. I mean, Pat Cavanaugh having a magical season. They have horses in the middle of the field, and they've been playing defense there in South Bend for the last 30 years. So you got to love the Irish when you check all the boxes. There's no holes.
Quarterfinals at Arlotta, too. So Maryland having to go take on Notre Dame in South Bend. Q, what do you think?
Well, what stands out to me right now, the bubble teams who are unaccounted for, like Rutgers, teams like Army, Loyola, Syracuse. Going to sweat this one out for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, we'll get to the final 8 teams, as we mentioned. Coming up, we'll also dig a little bit deeper into the women's bracket as well throughout the rest of the show. We've got an entire hour still to come and a lot to get to, including the rest of the men's bracket. We've already seen the 8-seeded teams. You're going to have some teams that are at-large teams that are going to want to make a lot of noise this May. Brett Makar, all Big Ten close defenseman from Maryland, he's going to join us to talk about the Terps and their recent run to a Big Ten title and what they hope to accomplish as we progress throughout mayhem. And that's Tim Leonard, chairman of the selection committee. We're going to get his ideas and thoughts on how he rounded out this bracket when we come back. Welcome back to the men's and women's lacrosse selection show. We just showed you the 8-seeded teams in the men's bracket. Now we're going to go back to the top half of the bracket and fill in the rest. So number 1, North Carolina, they will open up in Chapel Hill against the MAAC champion Monmouth.
Yeah, Monmouth, Brian Fisher, the head coach. 5 double-digit goal scorers. Cade Stratton leads the way with only 17 goals, but they lock it down on D. Second nationally. 7.9 goals per game allowed.
Lehigh in Klockner Stadium in Charlottesville will play Rutgers. So one of those bubble teams that you talk about, Q, now off the table and into this bracket.
Scarlet Knights in the tournament for the first time since 2004. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Congratulations, Rutgers. Big Ten 8-2 during the regular season. They stubbed their toe in the semifinals of the Big Ten, but I love this attack. Connor Kirst, Adam Sherlin-Beatties, Kieran Mullins, goalie Colin Kirst, the brothers, both transfers. And this is a big guy. This is a team who's lived on the bubble basically for the last decade. So this is great to see. You watch this team all season long, Clark. They look like a playoff team.
They did. And they have some midfielders that we've seen really big things from. Shane Knobloch, right? David Sprock. Consistently, can they put up the numbers? I think if the midfield comes to play and supports that attack, this is a dangerous offense.
Hurst brothers coming through town really changed things for Rutgers this year. Number 5, Georgetown. Who will they face, Kark? The Syracuse Orange. So once again, one of these bubble teams, I think we felt like their 2 wins over Virginia, they'll probably got them in for sure.
Yeah, got them in. I don't think there was too much drama involved with that. But in that matchup, what's intriguing to me, 2 freshmen. Owen Hiltz from Syracuse, 7 goals on Friday against Robert Morris. He's a goal scorer. Georgetown has an ex-attackman who leads the nation in assists, TJ Haley. I'm watching this kid pass the ball and his lacrosse IQ. One of the best young passers I've seen in 30 years. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, this game interests me because Georgetown plays with such great defensive structure. You know, Gibby Smith, Alex Mazzone. And Syracuse right now struggling defensively. So I think it's a little bit of a contrast. Georgetown probably wants to play a game that's a little more tighter to the vest, a little structured. Syracuse is going to try to create some flow.
Yeah, I think individually everyone's always thought Syracuse has the best first midfield in the country. Brendan Curry, Jamie Trimboli, Tucker Dordovic. Those guys are incredible talents. I think this Georgetown midfield is very underrated.
Right.
Graham Bundy has been really, really strong. And Declan McDermott, we're watching him shoot the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Whoa.
Let's move down through the bracket and talk about who Virginia, the defending champs, have coming in the number 4 seed. Obviously at home in Charlottesville, they'll take on the NEC champs, Q Bryant.
Look who's back, the Bryant Bulldogs under Mike Pressler. Took that job back in 2007. The Kings of Rhode Island. Think back, though, 2014. They went up to the Carrier Dome and beat Syracuse. They made the quarterfinals in 2014. 5 appearances now, 13, 14, 15, 17. A defensive team, but Logan McGovern certainly knows how to score.
Maryland is the 3 seed. They might be disappointed with that, but at least they're playing at home in the first round. Who will they play as we flip to the bottom half of the bracket? I'm guessing it's the America East champs. It is Vermont. What do they have for them, Cart?
Well, they have a young staff. Chris Fifes has been a phenomenal leader. He won a national championship as an assistant coach at North Carolina in 2016. You talk about shooters. Turn on the tape and watch this kid, Michael McCormack, shoot. He shoots the lights out. From 15, 20 yards, it doesn't matter.
And watch Tommy Burke, one of the top face-off men in the country, too, for Vermont. Notre Dame, they may be disappointed with that 6th seed. They'll take on the Drexel Dragons. They've won 9 straight.
This team has gotten hot. 10 wins overall, 9 consecutive, including a conference championship. Goalie Ross Blumenthal was exceptional in the conference final. Head coach Brian Volker's done a nice job. Depth of scoring pretty good. Sean Donnelly, Jack Mulcahy, and Reed Baring, their leading scorer.
Denver at the 7th seed, so we're going to get a team on the bubble now, most likely in terms of an at-large bid taking on the Pios, and we do. Loyola out of the Patriot, a little bit of a surprise here, maybe given the fact that they couldn't play the Patriot championship game because of COVID. They're in.
You talked earlier about the criteria. Eye test mattered. I think Loyola passed the eye test, and what's really compelling for me is the maturation of some of their stars. Aiden Olmstead, Kevin Lindley. When they played with Pat Spencer, they were off-ball guys. Those guys have grabbed the bull by the horns, are running the offense, and they are a dynamic duo.
Finally, the last team in our 16-team field, the 2nd-seeded Duke Blue Devils, will take on High Point. They played them in the regular season, Q.
The Purple Panthers. John Torpy's done such a great job in the SoCon. Asher Nolting is their best player, the terrific feeder with incredible vision. These skip passes he throws. I love this team, though. You know, we got to see a lot of them against ACC teams. Guys like Kevin Rogers, Dalton Solver, and Brandon Maia.
Duke won the first game 27-8 in the regular season. Chairman of the Selection Committee, Tim Leonard, joins us right now. And, Tim, we just saw the brackets. And my first question to you is about the bubble teams. What was it about a Rutgers and a Loyola that you guys gave the nod to those 2 teams over an Army, for example?
You know, the coaches took care of the eye test for us. And we really asked a lot of questions this year, probably more so than we've ever done. And it helped having Coach Raymond and Coach Bresci on the committee. I mean, those 2 were tremendous in helping us determine, you know, let's look at the eye test. We've got data, but now let's look at the eye test and see how that compares. And so I think we felt pretty good about everything. It was just, boy, that Army one was so tough.
Tim, it sounds like more subjectivity this year, less data points, less non-conference games. The RPI basically dysfunctional. How did you guys create a criteria that was effective?
Yeah, you're exactly right. A lot more subjectivity than ever before. We knew that going in that it was going to be that way. It's not something we'd like to be in that position. Obviously, you would like to be able to have as much objective data as possible. So that's why, again, the rack was so important throughout the year. But really what we looked at was just trying to determine what are quality wins and who really tested themselves and showed us that, hey, look, this is a good team. They can beat some other quality teams.
Tim, you look at Maryland. They go undefeated. They win the Big Ten championship. They were ranked 1 for a good portion of the later stages of the season. What was the thought process behind having them at a number 3?
It was tough to be able to say, hey, here's an undefeated Maryland team with one of the best players in the country, yet we're going to say they're number 3. You know, it was really tough to be able to say that, but when you look at what North Carolina and Duke did, and they really went out there and had some tests and did a tremendous job with it. And again, a lot of the coaches on the rack call were saying those same things, and everybody seemed to be giving a very, very slight edge to Carolina over Duke, mainly because the last time those 2 teams played, Carolina won. And so that's really why we gave the nod to Carolina. Duke with that close second, because if you're giving Carolina one, and then you got to look at Duke as that second team, and then Maryland. And again, great team, but just hard to tell how good they were based on the schedule that they played.
Tim, thank you for your time, and thanks to the committee for putting together what looks like a really fun bracket. We're looking forward to watching the games.
Thank you so much for having me on.